Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. You know, when you go to the grocery store to buy milk because you need milk, and then half an hour later you come back home with a bag full of groceries like toilet paper and dishwasher detergent and coffee and a jam or a honey you liked. You bought 10 different things. The only thing you didn't buy was milk. You know that feeling? I had that the other day when I went to the bookstore. I went to the bookstore in Amsterdam specifically to buy one book that I needed for a book club I'm a member of. And I came back with 5 books, and I thought, well, at least I could show you the books so that they have some purpose because I didn't intend to buy them. But if I show them to you, then it's sort of, an excuse for buying them, if you get my drift. Anyway, here are the 5 books that I bought. And the first book I bought is this one, Isana The Patriots. The book came out January 2017, so it's about a year old. And I've heard about it when it came out. Sana Krasikov was born in the Ukraine. She lives now in the US, and it's a multi-generational. It's a debut novel. Krasikov published a short story collection before that, but this is her first novel, and it's set. It begins in the 1930s in the US. We follow a young woman, Florence, who grows up during the Depression years, and she travels to Russia to follow her lover and stays in Russia. And then the story takes off from there. We follow not only Florence, but also her son, Julian, and Julian's son, or Florence's grandson, Lenny. Julian goes back to the US in the 1980s, and Lenny then goes back to Russia to do business at the beginning of this millennium. So it spans 70 years and 3 generations. This one is the only book of the 5 that I read already, and I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic story, really well written, but I will talk more extensively in my next recent reads. And if you're looking, if you're doing the Reading Women challenge, so if you're doing the June Reading Women month, from Kendra Winchester, who also has a BookTube channel, but also a podcast, Reading Women. The challenge number 7 is read a book set in Russia or written by a Russian author, and this is a perfect pick for that challenge. The second book I bought was a cover buy, or at least the book caught my attention because of the cover. Look at this. It's Claire Louise Bennett, Pond. It's also a debut novel. It came out a while ago, or at least a while ago, in 2015, so it's not that long ago. I've never heard about that book. I've never heard about the author. She's a British author who published short fiction in magazines before writing this, set in an Irish coastal town, a small village, and we follow the daily life of a young woman. The cover art that drew me to it, I found out later, is by a Dutch artist, Margaret Smulders. I will leave a link to her website down below, who paints floral designs that look really, like old floral pictures. If you look at this, it could be like a painting from the 17th century. But anyway. So I saw this cover, I picked up the book, I read the blurb, I thought that sounded interesting, and what I learned to do, is I look at page 112. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out Sean's channel over at Sean the Book Maniac. I will leave a link to his channel down below. You should all subscribe to him. He's a Canadian booktuber living in Japan, and I love his channel. But there is a prize in France, a book prize, where the judges only get page 112 of the book, of all the books they are to judge, and then from those pages they make their selection. And Sean made this idea, which is great because you don't know anything, the judges don't know anything about the author, or whether it's a male or female or black or white or gay or whatever. They just judge the book on the basis of page 112. Anyway, so Sean made this into a tag that, you pick books just by reading page 112. And that's what I do now when when a book I have never heard of and I have no intention, before I had no intention to buy, then I read page 112, and if I like it, I buy it. So I did. I have no further information other than what I told you. That's about a woman in a small coastal village, and that the style is kind of experimental. And because I love discovering new authors and especially debuts, I thought I'd give it a try. The next book I bought was a book that I've heard when it was released in 2000. Heard about when it was released in 2016, and that is Affinity Konar Mischling. Mischling is a German word. It means mixed race. So the book, first of all, the author, it's another debut, so we stay with the debuts. And the author grew up in California. And she worked at the university, obviously, as a tutor before writing this. The book is set in Auschwitz in 1944, or at least that's when the book opens. And we follow the twins, Pearl and Stasha, who have to undergo Mengeles twin experiments. But the book is not only set, from what I understood, in Auschwitz, but also after the liberation of the camp by the Red Army. Now, I thought the premise and the topic sounded really interesting, but somehow I was reluctant. It's quite a heavy subject, and I for some reason I was reluctant to pick it up. But when I saw it in the bookstore, when I went to buy that carton of milk, you remember, and I saw it, and I thought, now I'm going to buy it. And as you can see, I also bought a new bookmark, which I always do when I find one. And isn't this pretty? It's like, an open book and the letters A and Z, and you can put it in the book and then it hangs like that. And I just love bookmarks with tassels. It's just me. Don't ask. Anyway, that's Mischling by Affinity Konar. And the next book was kind of a surprise find, because it's an older book published in 1995, and that is Penelope Fitzgerald, The Blue Flower. Now, Penelope Fitzgerald probably doesn't need an introduction. She was a famous English poet, novelist. She wrote essays and biographies as well. She was born in 1916 and died in 2000. I love her work, her novels, Offshore, and The Bookstore. I think there's even a movie made out of the novel, The Bookstore, if I'm not mistaken. And I was always drawn to her work, not only because I like her style and I like her stories, but also because she started writing late. She published her first book when she was 59. And I've been a lawyer for over 25 years, and I wrote my first book, my first novel, published my first novel when I was in my early 50s. I'm always looking for other writers who started late in life writing books, because it gives me comfort that I'm not the only one. But anyway, too much information. And I wanted to reread The Blue Flower because I was talking about it with Eric over from The Lonesome Reader. And then I realized I don't have it anymore. Probably lent it to somebody or gave it away. I'm not sure. So I was really excited when I found it. But I should probably also tell you what the book is about. That might be information you actually need. So The Blue Flower is set in the late 18th century, and it tells the life of a German romantic poet, Novalis, whose real name was Fritz von Hardenberg. Novalis is one of the most famous romantic poets in Germany. I love his work. I'm a romantic soul, obviously. Novalis died very young, when he was only 29. He died in 1801 from tuberculosis, but he still left a substantial body of works, and I love his poems. And this novel, of historical fiction, follows his life. And it's quite short, about 200 pages, but it captures the atmosphere, it captures Novalis' life, at least I think it does. Wonderfully written. So if you're into historical fiction, and especially historical fiction that is centered around a real life person, then I can highly recommend The Blue Flower by Penelope Fitzgerald, and I can't wait to reread it. Last of the 5 books is actually the only new release I bought, and that is Heather Morris, The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which came out in January of this year. Heather Morris was born in New Zealand, but she now lives in Australia, so I hope I'm okay if I call her an Australian author. She published novels and short fiction also, and The Tattooist of Auschwitz follows Lael and Gita Sokolov, who were imprisoned in Auschwitz, and Lael had the task of tattooing a certain symbol on prisoners' arms. The symbol meant that they were allowed to live. Sokolov later, he and his wife survived Auschwitz, and they later immigrated to Australia. So this is also historical fiction based on a real life person. And I thought it sounded fascinating, heavy as the earlier book I mentioned, Mischling by Affinity Kona, but it got a lot of praise, and when I saw it in the bookstore, I thought I have to give it a try. So those were the 5 books I bought, and now you're probably wondering which of the 5 I went into the bookstore to buy. Well, none of them, because remember the carton of milk? So I bought 5 books, and I came home, and the only book I didn't buy, I didn't even look for it, was the book that I wanted to buy, and I went to the bookstore in the first place, and that's this one. Romanian author Herta Müller, who won the Nobel Prize for literature in 2009, and this is she writes in German because she is part of a German-speaking community in Romania, but this book is also published in English. The title is then The Fox Was Ever the Hunter. It's published in the early 1990s, I think 1992, and I'm reading this for Mel's book club, which I mentioned many times, the Read Around the World book club. So this was the book I was supposed to buy. I didn't, so I had to order it from Amazon. Anyway, so these were my 5, well, 6 with the book I ordered later, new arrivals for June. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know whether you read any of the books, or whether you're interested in any of them, or whether you have new books just acquired that you are excited about. And I will talk to you soon in my next video. Bye-bye.